Hi everyone, today I want to talk about elves. In the many fantasy universes that we know and love, elves appear in a myriad of ways. But what are the origins of elves? I have attempted to draw out a genealogical tree of over 30 different kinds of elves, from the glam rock inspired Wardancers from Warhammer to the nymphs of the Iliad. We shall go through each one, seeing how one relates to another. I have used AI image generation to visualize all the elves similarly so that we might compare them. The images can be understood as the common denominator between thousands of depictions of the different elves. In Norse mythology, the elves are divided into two distinct categories, the Dokkalfar and the Ljósalfar. The Ljósalfar have a radiant beauty and grace. They have been there since the creation of the world, and they live in an internal harmony with their surroundings. They play little role in the lives of men and gods. Their kin, however, have more agency. The Dokkalfar were known as master blacksmiths and crafted enchanted artifacts for Loki, who in turn gifted them to the gods. Their cunning was shown when the Dokkalfar killed Baldir, using his blood to brew the mead of poetry that bestowed creative inspiration on the drinker. In the German legend of Nibelungenlied, Siegfried encounters the Nibelung. They are mischievous craftsmen whose magnificent treasure contains a magical ring. Tolkien was inspired by the story as he imagined the Ring of Power, but pictured the elves more like the Ljósalfar, as well as mixing in other inspirations. The elves were called west by the gods. During their journey, the elves were scattered into smaller groups. This time is known as the Sundering. The Noldor, led by Finwë, voyaged to Valinor, an idyllic haven in the Western Realms, where they coexisted alongside the godlike Valar, basking in the radiant light of the golden tree Laurelin. Tolkien's Christian influences resonate through these angelic embodiments, characterized by radiating presence and righteous motifs. The other faction was instead inspired by pagan traditions, such as the nymphs of ancient Greece. The Teleri embarked on the westward journey, but ultimately chose to remain in Middle-earth. They are a more mysterious kind, associated with the moon. The Teleri splintered into various factions. The Sylvan elves, led by Thranduil, live deep inside Mirkwood. They rarely interact with the outside world, but when they do, they are often hostile. Beautiful like the rose, but dangerous like the thorn. Their mystique and menacing presence can remind of the Huldra, who lured the Norwegian adventurer Peer Gynt into the mountains. Another group ventured across the sea. They drew inspiration from the sirens or naiads, water nymphs that would lure sailors by singing. They are known as the Falmari and are associated with the stars, which they use to navigate the ocean. A third faction, the Avari, refused the Western calling, opting to remain in the East. Like Lucifer, the fallen angel, some among them succumbed to Melkor's call. These are evil elves, leading the orcs against the alliance of elves and men. Tolkien's description of elves were canonized by Dungeons & Dragons. This encyclopedic collection of magical creatures further differentiated the elves, which in turn were fleshed out by subsequent franchises, such as Warhammer or the Elder Scrolls. We shall explore one branch of the genealogical tree at a time, seeing the slight variations of every twig. The Noldor became the High Elves. They are powerful magicians, their appearance marked by fair skin and shimmering golden hair. High Elves carry a sense of pride that shapes their interactions and beliefs. They are powerful, and power corrupts. While seeing themselves as a force for good, they are often blindsided by their hubris. In the world of Warcraft, the Blood Elves exemplify this pride. They are part of the Horde, along with orcs, trolls, minotaurs, and the undead, beings commonly associated with evil. They live inside a protective bubble in the wastelands of Azeroth. Their society is heavily militarized with a strong hierarchical structure. Similarly, in the Elder Scrolls universe, the Altmer are firmly convinced of their race's supremacy. They live on an island off the continent and infiltrate the governments of Nirn. They are like the Illuminati, striving for a global world order, overseen by the benevolent yet authoritarian elves. In Warhammer, the Lumineth Realm Lords is a faction that has, after deep meditation, found a way of dealing with their arrogance that has led to catastrophe in an earlier age. They now live in close symbiosis with nature to draw safely upon its powers. Yet despite their peaceful existence, or maybe because of it, they now view their enlightened views as superior to others, and their inborn hubris re-emerges, not unlike the social justice warriors of our world. The Sylvan Elves developed into Wood Elves that live in ancient forests, embracing a naturalistic lifestyle adorned with attire crafted from leather and foliage. Renowned for their prowess in hunting, they exhibit distinctive coppery skin. Elves are much older species than humans. They represent the indigenous peoples of the land, whose habitat is encroached upon by humans. They are defenders of an old way of life and the wild forests. The Sylvaneth, denizens of the Warhammer universe, are master hunters, communing with the trees, dryads, and ents of the forests. My favorite model from Warhammer is the classic Wardancer called Glam. His design is inspired by Ziggy Stardust, showing the counterculture elements of the Wood Elves. Night Elves from the Warcraft universe live on an island called Teldrassil. Their leaders are shape-shifting druids and shamans, borrowing references from both Celts and Native Americans. The Bosmer from the Elder Scrolls universe epitomize the untamed spirit. They are carnivorous, dressed in leather and bones, as they live like beasts in the jungle of Valenwood. They are also known to be cannibalistic, eating both their own, as well as any human unfortunate enough to travel through their lands. The Dalish from Dragon Age embody this ethos as nomadic wanderers, traversing these forests in beautifully carved caravans and tents. Their hostility towards humans stem from the segregation and oppression faced by their kin, who live in ghettos in the human cities. Similarly, the Scoia'tael from the Witcher universe wage a guerrilla war for elven rights in a world dominated by humans. The Scoia'tael collects the ears of their enemies as trophies to hang around their necks. The Falmari would become the Sea Elves of Dungeons & Dragons. They have been transformed by the oceans, now possessing gills to breathe underwater, with webbed feet and fingers. They evoke the sublime mysteries of the oceans, both as the home of alien creatures and the terrifying force of the waves. In the Warhammer universe, the Idoneth Deepkin is a fierce group of pirates that have come to tame the wild creatures of the ocean, riding on sharks or giant sea serpents, and even the Kraken. Their captives are enslaved, echoing the dark history, but also the current state of our ocean. The Naga of World of Warcraft live in the center of the map known as the Maelstrom, and all boats have to make sure to travel around it as they cross the ocean. They were cursed by the old gods, transforming their bodies into serpent-like forms. The monstrosity is like that of the fishfolk of Innsmouth, a story by Lovecraft, who also inspired the old gods. The Avari, descendants of those who refused the westward journey, transformed into drow elves, dwelling in the dark recesses of the Underdark. They are a cursed kind, without hope. Their nihilism and madness have made them worship their desires, indulging in pleasures and pain alike. In Warhammer, the Dark Elves were once part of the High Elves. Their queen was killed by demons, and to avenge her, the king, Anarion, prayed at the shrine of Cain, knowing he and his kin would forever be doomed. After winning the war against the demons, the elves would enjoy a long peace, yet their corruption would slowly grow. They are now a hateful race, worshipping their evil god by torturing and sacrificing their victims. Void elves from World of Warcraft were ambitious sorcerers, believing they could draw upon the powers of the void, the infinite blackness that would one day engulf the universe. The whispers from the void would drive them to madness. If you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back onto you. The Dunmer are a cursed people that live in the ashen landscape of Merwyn, scornful of any outsiders. Some live as nomads, worshipping the Daedric goddess of deceit and murder. Their kin, the Dwemers, sought refuge in the underground. They built a mechanical world like the giant steampunk infrastructures of Victorian England. They were enslaved by the Falmer, the Snow Elves, who slowly degraded into blind goblin-like creatures. The Dwemer would ultimately disappear, only living on through their mechanical contraptions. Elves spring out of our imaginations, and they are ultimately representations of ourselves. Each elven faction represents a different understanding of the human condition. Their powerful magic may serve as an analogy for our technology, their stories warning us about how best to wield it. I have missed out on several elven kinds from both mythology and contemporary culture. Let me know in the comments what are your favorite kind of elves. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.